a single car team.
Brad Keselowski won this race.
500. Delano, there are the Wood brothers. Oh my goodness. First win in 10 years.
Side by side. Come on, Norm. Hangs on.
Norm was not going to be denied.
And we did it. Yeah!
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how y'all doing? Welcome to another episode of the Also Ran broadcast. We are going to have ourselves a super duper guest on today. A man that was pushed for time, but for obvious reasons. He's been really busy here lately, and he's been releasing a lot of news over the past couple weeks. Something that we are super excited about, something that kind of helps explain where we got to, where we are today. But before we get any further into this episode, we want to make sure that you, the fans, are letting us know how we're doing. And you can do that by helping us tame the savage algorithm beast. How so? Please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and comment. Let us know what we're doing wrong and what we're doing right, so we can do less and more of aforementioned stuff. If you're listening on the audio realm, go ahead and give us a rate and review. You know, we are here. We are the Also Ran broadcast. We are literally the Also Ran guys in the podcast industry here. We're not doing it to get rich. We're not doing it to get famous. We're doing this to help get the word out for some of the teams that aren't getting the publicity they need and they deserve. Or maybe they did get it. They didn't get enough of it and they need more. So,
hey, I'm stealing y'all away from other Derek for a second so I can tell y'all about our brilliant sponsor, Gray Before Shave. Gray Before Shave offers everything you could possibly need for your hair up there. They've got oils, balms, butters, they've got waxes for your mustache, shampoo, conditioner. There's so much stuff, I don't have the time to sit here and tell you about everything. Head over to their website, graybeforeshave.com. See something you like, take it to the checkout. Before you check out, apply the code ALSO-RAN for 15% off your purchase. If you're undecided on which scent is right for you, they have an excellent bundle of oils that has one of each of their brilliant scents. I prefer the Pumpkin Smash. My wife absolutely loves their brand new Liquid Gold. It smells like adult bubble gum. That's the only way I can think to describe it. So head over there, graybeforeshave.com. Find something you like, check it out, use our discount code ALSO-RAN for 15% off. You won't be disappointed. Now, back to that other handsome bearded fella.
before we get into today's guest, before I bring our guest on stage, I want to talk a little bit about producer Josh and I. Producer Josh, please say hello to the people.
Hello. What's going on, man?
Nada mucho, man. Just super excited about today's show. About to bring Corey LaJoie on. And Corey LaJoie has done a lot for you and I since I became a Corey LaJoie fan. You were a fan much longer than I am. You got to know some people behind the scenes, and part of that resulted in the shoe show, which has morphed and evolved into this show, the Also Ran broadcast.
Yep.
So
yeah, I'm excited.
I mean, without Corey LaJoie, let me say this, not necessarily Corey LaJoie, but the family that is the Corey LaJoie fan base. For years, I started out as a Casey Kane fan, AJ Allmendinger, Brad Keselowski, which is kind of ironic. It's a full circle moment for me, seeing Corey LaJoie in the 6 car. The most hyped I've ever been at a racetrack was when I actually got to see Brad Keselowski capture the checkered flag at Talladega in person. I didn't cry, real men don't cry, but I was super excited. And I was quoting Larry Mack the rest of the day to my wife, which she wanted to beat me repeatedly. Why? Because Brad Keselowski won this race. So, which is ironic, right? Because for Brad Keselowski to get his first win at Talladega, that was his first race, the first race back at Talladega after the Tony Stewart incident with Regan Smith, where Tony ran Regan below the yellow line, and Brad Keselowski said
Regan actually won. Yeah.
Right. And that was the first race I ever attended. So I like Tony Stewart. I don't have anything against him, and I don't think it was a dirty move. I think Tony was doing what he had to do. I think NASCAR made the wrong call. And we've all seen recently that NASCAR may not necessarily make the best decisions. They may not have the best judgment at the end of the day, but that's neither here nor there. We're not going to make this a political show, but my wife is a huge Carl Edwards fan, and so we touch on that a little bit in the show. But we wouldn't be where we are if it wasn't for Corey LaJoie, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is all kind of dominoed from me just being, a fan of Corey, joining Team Super Shoe. If you guys don't watch this and have no idea what I'm talking about, a group on Facebook where we have a lot of conversation, and that's where all this has started, the shoe show started. And through that channel, through that Facebook opportunity, met some people that were pretty important in Corey's life that ultimately gave me an opportunity to be here on screen. And, I never thought I would be doing this. And honestly, I'd given up on any type of media stuff, a decade ago. So when it came knocking and thought it was my opportunity to, spread love to my favorite race or to my favorite sport, to be able to get some cool stories and, think about, wow, this could be something big. And so far it's been pretty awesome. So, and yeah, man, it's just, Corey's different, I've, you and I, we've gone out and we've had to go and, look for other drivers and things because it's obviously much more fun to watch a race when you're a fan of, a particular person, pull for somebody, give you something a little extra to be excited about. But, man, there's nobody like Corey, man. He's just such a good dude, and he's a Christian. He's down to earth. He's a guy you can have a beer with. Not that I'm drinking anymore, but he was somebody that I saw, and even though when I became a fan of him, he was driving the 32 and finishing 35th every week with 35th, equipment. It wasn't about that anymore. I was ready to just dive into somebody because personally seemed like a really good person as opposed to somebody that just puts up good numbers and has a cool looking car. It just wasn't my thing anymore to pick somebody based off of that. So, and Corey has treated with us, with nothing but love, and this has just been a dream come true. So, and yeah, you and I wouldn't be buddies. This show, my potential future with NASCAR, none of that would be here. So,
and something else people don't know is that, so if you're like, I'm not throwing shade on anybody at all, but if you're a bandwagon fan, you're missing out on a very integral part of the sport. You figure this sport was started by a bunch of good old boys, running away from revenuers back in the day, trying to spread love and moonshine to the masses because the government said it was illegal. There's a certain mentality that comes with that, and there's a certain type of person that watches that kind of sport, and that's not changed much over the years, and you see that really evident in the fans of drivers like Corey LaJoie and some of the people that we promote here on our little podcast. The fan community, when they're not just buying t-shirts, when they're actually invested in the driver, you learn so much more about the sport, and you see so much more love, and you see why stock car racing or just racing in general, you see these families going to the racetrack on Friday night and Saturday night at the local tracks, going to see dirt racing, asphalt racing, whatever. You see husband, wives, children, and you see this reflected too in some of our guests. They come on and you see them with their race car because they started just like some of these fans, going to the dirt tracks with their dad or their grandpa. And then you fast forward a handful of years, and because the Lord sets a path in front of certain people a certain way, next thing you know, they're standing next to these cars. Josh and I have both been fortunate enough that because of the path that the Lord set in front of us, that we've had the opportunity to stand with Corey LaJoie on pit road before a race. And just God is so good all the time. And recently, things have not been looking the brightest for some people out there. And y'all just need to remember, sorry, producer Josh, I don't think we talked about this, but part of this podcast is our faith and knowing that there is a God above and that Jesus Christ died and was resurrected 3 days later so we could all have eternal salvation. Y'all pray. I went on a little rant earlier. Pray unceasingly. As we've seen in the racing world, when the door shuts, another door opens, another window opens. There's never get lost in the fear and the unpredictable nature of what's around the corner, because God's got your back. And God has paved the road that you are walking on. And he knows what is over the hill. He knows what is around the corner. Last year, we watched Corey LaJoie scratch together a handful of truck races in a 77. After he ran some truck races earlier in the year under a different number. After he ran some races early in the year in the 01 with Rick Ware. It was definitely a strange path, As somebody who buys merch for the drivers they follow, it was an expensive endeavor, but it was worth it. But it's a perfect example of, where he can take you when you place all your faith in him. If you would have told either one of us last year that Corey LaJoie was going to be in the 6th car at Bowman Gray, a track that he's won at, we would have told you you're crazy. It's not impossible, but you're crazy. And then if you were to tell us that Corey LaJoie is going to be in the 99 in the Daytona 500, racing his way into the Daytona 500, we would have told you we're crazy. So let that be an example to any of y'all that are out there that have any kind of a thought in your head of, I don't know where I'm going. You don't need to know, because he knows. And there's no such thing as a wrong turn, just unexpected destinations.
Yep. Sometimes life takes a turn that you don't expect, and sometimes the little things produce something huge. A good example is, keeping with the Corey theme, is this all started with, for me to get an invite to be a part of the admin group of Team Super Shoe. Believe it or not, there's other admins that were out there before me, and when Corey went to the 7 car, it was on the off season between the 32 and the 7. I went and bought a Justin Haley 77 sticker from eBay, cut it in half, and I put it on my truck, and I posted it on Facebook saying first 7 sticker, and I tagged Corey LaJoie in it, and and it was in Team Super Shoe, and then he reposted that, sharing the Team Super Show page, and that page went from 50 people on it to like 200 in a day. And then they reached out and said, hey, you seem like a dedicated fan. We could use extra help. And, that was my small little tiny seed that blew up. Legitimately wouldn't be here right now talking to you. Wouldn't know Derek. Wouldn't have the memories that I have, from the tracks in the past few years. I'd still be a race fan. I'd still have other memories. But, and, a lot of other personal things that I could dive deep into about how God will use something small that you don't think is going to be anything. And, he's going to use it for it to be a huge blessing, or it might be something horrible that you go through that, ends up being a blessing in disguise.
Because sometimes the answers you get aren't necessarily the answers you wanted, but they're the answers you need. Right.
I mean, for years, my wife and I, we have been trying for 3 to 4 years to have a kid and to get pregnant. And it wasn't until God finally made me realize that, I needed to quit alcohol. I needed to lose weight. Her and I both straightened ourselves up, and then we got pregnant. And by the way, you're going to have a baby at the best possible time of your life. We are so much better right now financially now than we were 4 or 5 years ago. Living situation and having the extra help. And 4 or 5 years ago, we thought, what the heck, God, we're doing everything right. We put the trust in you. Why aren't you giving us our second child? And it was very hard. It was hard to see people go and have kids that were going and just drinking and getting getting lucky, and they just happened to get pregnant. Meanwhile, me and my wife, who has done everything right and got married, did everything according to the Bible, are going to doctors and are doing unsightful things to try to figure out when the best time is to get pregnant, this and that, the science behind everything. We're like, why the heck do we have to go through all this, And it was very hard. So, it's just the way God works sometimes, and I'm glad the way it did. Glad the way he worked. So
it's kind of funny. So this is an older book, an older publication, NASCAR for Dummies. If you are not familiar with the sport, you want to know a little something about it, then you read that up. Well, there is a living life for dummies, right? It's called the Holy Bible. You need to know a little something, you go to that book, all right? You go to the interwebs, you let the interwebs know, hey, because there's a lot of people out there. There's a huge community. We're called Christians, and they've gone through issues before in the past, and people can recommend different books to look up, different verses to look up. That book is going to have the answer to any problem. And just remember, when you pray for something, he's going to answer your prayers in his time, because it's his plan. But before we get too deep into that, because we could spend all day on it, we will have another episode. We will have what Josh and I have been calling our faith-based episode, where we are going to get even deeper into that, because we have some interviews sometimes where we don't really touch on faith and we don't bring the Lord up as much as we should. But, he is part of why we are here. He is the largest part of why we are here. Let me say that. Because ultimately, if you want to live your life, if you want a recipe for a successful life, then you put God first, family second. And I always say it's God, family, racing, and then everything else. So anyway, before we get too serious, which I think we've already been on that serious path for a while, let's bring on our guest, Corey LaJoie. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm presenting to you the shoe of NASCAR, the super shoe of NASCAR once he gets a trophy and some hardware under his belt. Corey LaJoie. Corey LaJoie, how the heck are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good, man. I love the little tip of the cap to a Danbury Race Arena program on the opening, so I did notice that. Appreciate the hat as well. I'm actually in the RFK shop. As you see, there's a 17 getting fixed up behind me. Pretty surreal. I got to be honest, because I left Phoenix I think I'm done being a race car driver, but nonetheless, the big man had some different plans.
Yeah. They say when he opens the door, or he opens doors when he closes others, and that's why we're a fan of you, man. You touched on your faith a good bit over on Stacking Pennies, and that is one of the reasons why we enjoy following you. And I would be remiss if we got too far into this conversation. You acknowledge the hat. Following you and coming to become a fan of yours was, I kind of feel like it was a path that I did not plan on taking, and it's been a full circle journey for me as a race fan. So
both, buddy.
We are super stoked that, first of all, as Corey LaJoie fans, to see that you're going to be running Bowman Gray in the 6 car. And before you even announced that, before I started following you, Brad Keselowski, based, if you can see the background, huge Brad Keselowski fan before I was a even bigger Corey LaJoie fan. And there's some pictures I took with him in Daytona. I met you later that race weekend with the same hat on, and that was my first time I actually got a chance. And you were one of a couple people that was actually taking the time to meet the fans on the ball field there at Daytona before practice and whatnot. And something even funnier, even more ironic, which was not planned, and we just found out a couple days ago, you're going to be driving the 99 in the 500. So one brief little thing, and then I'm going to turn it over to you. I have to share this video because I was never a fan of the 99. Like I said, being a Keselowski fan, you can't be a Carl Edwards fan and a Keselowski fan, at least in my household.
It's true.
So
it's true.
My wife was the Carl Edwards fan. So Josh, if you would please, let's get ready to embarrass the heck out of my wife. Talladega 2009.
Better watch out, bro.
I got it.
See, what you don't see in that video is he signed an autograph, turned around, and gave my wife a second hug. And I kid you not, her eyes started to roll back in her head. And it was at that point I said, "Sir, if she passes out, that's on you." So it is truly, God bless you, Corey LaJoie. God bless you.
Carl would probably said, "Well, don't worry, I know CPR." That's what kind of type of guy Carl is.
Yeah. So how did that all come together? I mean, like first the 6 and then the 99. I mean, the man upstairs is definitely watching over you, sir.
Yeah, I'm not sure what he's scheming, but he's cooking some stuff up, right? And I just kind of holding it loosely, trying to figure out where my time needs to be best spent, whether it's at the shop, building this carbon shop, whether it's here at this shop, getting fitted in for the seat, hanging out with my kids, having a lot of conversations about getting the podcast back going. Going to be doing that next week. So a lot of different avenues right now, but this is certainly the priority because this is the best opportunity we've ever had going down to Daytona. But first, going to Bowman Gray, where someplace I've had a lot of success and look forward to having some more success. Did the sim yesterday. Felt really good. And now we're pouring an insert and getting some belts dialed in for this thing. And it's surreal, man. It's surreal that thinking that I was done, being relatively content with like not chasing it anymore, trying to chase the dragon, and then this comes out of nowhere. It's kind of breathed some fresh air back in my lungs a little bit and made me back motivated to try to go be what I had always wanted to be, which was a winning Cup driver. And this place hopefully is the place I can be able to do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of haters out there, as everybody's got their narrow-minded fans that don't appreciate people like you in the sport. So I want to take this time to remind them, our man Corey LaJoie has hardware, guys, from Bowman Gray. And if I'm not mistaken, is that not one of the tracks where you gave away one of your first autograph shoes after the win?
That was the first one. Yeah, I was walking up to the media center, to the press box, and I was like, I'm a shoe. I might as well give my shoe away. So that was where the tradition started. Haven't given away one in a long time, but yeah, don't read the comments, bro. Like a wise man once said, don't take criticism from somebody you wouldn't take advice from. And there's a lot of people on social media, I promise you, I ain't taking any advice from, so I'm definitely not worried about any criticism.
I know,
but I appreciate you having my back.
Oh no, man! Look, as a fan of yours, we have as a fan base, we are a stronger family than some of these bandwagon fans, and we will have your back to no end, regardless of whether or not it's a 2-race deal turns into a multiple race deal. Whatever it is, we're going to be there for you, and we fuel ourselves off of these comments because we know when good things happen like this, and people are saying Corey LaJoie was done last year. He's running trucks. He said he wasn't going to run trucks. You know what? What's going on now? Our boys got 2 different rides with RFK. And RFK is not a start and park team. Jack Roush. Hello, people. Come on. I mean, we got your back, dude.
Appreciate it. And we got some more. We got some more deals coming down the pipeline too, which are pretty exciting. So, yeah, I'm going to be racing a lot more than I expected this year.
I'm just going to say this, and the internet hounds can do their due diligence because as Corey LaJoie fans, we've done our due diligence, and I'm not going to say anything here, but we've seen some very optimistic pictures of some things going on that hopefully come to fruition, and we are super stoked about some of that stuff if it comes to fruition, because we're not going to ask you here. Obviously, you've got to do your grand reveals and whatnot, but how is all that aside?
I'm not real sure what you're talking about. But because phone calls just happened about 2 days ago, and we're in the middle of trying to figure it all out. But yes, I'll be running around in circles a little bit more in some capacity.
Good deal. Hopefully, I'll have to get a couple different hats and some more diecast throughout the course of the season, especially a race win diecast. That would be sweet.
That would be good.
How's mom and the babies been doing?
Counting down the days until March, man. Number 4 is coming, so it's gonna be a while.
Look, you need. It's like I tell the wife, you need to have a retirement plan. So you got to have somebody to take over the reins, so that way mom and daddy can retire early and go find a beach or a mountainside view somewhere. Can you walk us through the process of how the RFK deal actually came into being? Because we know they had some affiliation with Rick Ware in previous years. Does that have anything to do with it, or was it just kind of one of those things you couldn't predict at all?
I don't really know. I mean, I can go into probably more detail of like the how it all came probably next week when we do our first sack and pennies. But I think those guys saw my process with Rick last year, even when I finished the year in the 51 a couple years ago, and run competitive with those guys in that affiliation. So they always kind of had their eye on me. And then they asked me to not fill in, but be on baby standby for Brad and Ryan twice last year. So I was familiar with the people. And they were wanting to have a fourth car at the 500. And I was with one of the executives the day that he got the call. At the moment he got the call from Brad that he broke his leg. So naturally it was an easy transition for me to fill in whatever they needed. Unfortunately, circumstances with Brad, but he'll be back quickly. And it's pretty surreal. And there's some other details along the way, but they were wanting to run a fourth car, and they looked at all the details and stats, and they feel like I was the best guy for the job, and I tend to agree.
And one thing I want to touch on too, because it was just as of recording, it was just shown earlier today that all the RFK cars are going to be running a number font tribute to Greg Biffle. Did you have the opportunity to have a relationship with Greg before we unfortunately lost him?
Yeah, I mean, I've talked to Greg multiple times. I went to the service last week, and it was really heavy, perspective adjuster, right? We chase all this stuff, trying to get a little more of this or trying to race a little bit more. But ultimately, you really got to nail down what your priorities are. And, he did a lot for a lot of people. So it's really cool to give a tip of the cap to the Biff over to the 500 weekend. It's cool to see AJ Allmendinger running the actual 16 font. And I got to be honest, I think the 6 looks hard with that number. So the 6 car looks incredible. I'm excited to see my car. That release was the first time I seen that paint scheme. So excited behind the wheel at 99 Trimble Mustang for sure.
Yeah, I only had the opportunity to meet Greg Biffle the one time. Same weekend, I actually met you for the first time and had an opportunity to meet Brad for the first time. Y'all get tickets to Daytona 500. Make sure you get in the infield. It's spectacular. But just the one brief opportunity I had with Greg, he took the camera from my hands when he saw I was struggling to get a picture in the garage area. And he actually took a selfie of himself with myself and my son. And so it just kind of shows just that little brief time we had with him, how much of a standout individual he was. And hopefully we'll see one of those RFK cars, hopefully the 99 in Victory Circle at the conclusion of the Daytona 500.
That would be sick. I think, we've been close. We've been close with some shit boxes before, I promise you. But so we're going to go down there with an actual hot rod this year, and we're going to make some noise.
Hey, and look, people talk all kinds of smack about Brad Keselowski and the way he runs at these super speedways. But I tell you what, I am anxious to see you in front of him with him pushing you in equipment that he has to pay for. So, a little more initiative to not maybe, races aggressively behind our man, Corey LaJoie, right?
Well, ultimately, the way the front bumpers line up on these cars, it's really easy to turn somebody around. But I think they were looking at strength and numbers and needing some more blue ovals up at the end of the race to try to get RFK another Daytona 500. So there's obviously objectives, and everybody's going to be playing a big role in that. And you execute 498 and a half miles or 497 and a half miles to put yourself hopefully in the front row to where you can get the push the right time.
Yeah, and that's what we're all hoping to see. So, Corey, I'm not going to take up too much more of your time. I want to give you producer Josh and I, give our guest the white flag as we're winding down towards the end of the interview. So this is going to be your white flag lap, the final lap of this segment, for you to tell us anything you need to tell us that we don't already know or something you just need to share with the world.
White flag. The next flag ends it. If you all appreciate the graphics, you guys are really stepping up the game here. So kudos to Josh. White flag. I would say what's been on my heart the last couple weeks is like just discernment, like discernment from the Lord of like what is right and what is wrong, because nothing in life is black and white. And with so much AI and so much misinformation out there on no matter what the topic is, it's hard to really see what's what, and it's hard to know who to trust and who to believe. So discernment is the word for my white flag lap. I pray for that every day, and he's given me some discernment in the last couple of weeks to try to navigate all the new changes in life, and they're pretty good.
Amen, brother. Amen. He has the plan. Plans of man are faulty in nature, and there's only one plan that really matters at the end of the day. This is going to be a little bit awkward for our outro, because we do this thing where there was a moment on Stacking Pennies that meant a lot to me, because I sent you a package and you wore the shirt and you shared the shirt and the meaning of it with your audience. So a little something we do on the Also Ran broadcast is we have you do our outro. So Corey LaJoie, please take us home.
Let me read Hebrews 12:1 real quick. Therefore, since we're surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw up everything that hinders and the sin so easily entangles. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let's freaking go.
Thanks for the compliment, Corey. Means a lot.
Fire me up.
Yeah, we had to we had to have some kind of clever outro, and since this all started with Josh and the Shoe Show, we had to give our man Corey LaJoie an homage somewhere. So you always take us out towards the end of the show.
Appreciate that. Well, y'all are doing a labor of love. I promise you that.
Yeah,
Hey,
man.
Grinding, bro.
That 01 RCR, does that have anything to do with you?
I don't even know what that is. So yes,
Yeah.
no clue.
Okay. I guess not then.
That thing looked good though.
Well, it almost looked like your scheme, and I was like, I don't know, maybe there's something to it.
No.
But
Yeah, the number, font, and everything is identical.
Not that I know of. They might.
It's kind of crazy.
No idea. You ever seen a transaxle? Try to.
Don't think so.
This is PG over here, man. Yeah, that's one of the things that threw me for a loop when I first heard the next gen car, because it makes that sports car whine now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very nice.
There it is. That's about a $55,000 unit there.
That's Daytona, or that's or is that Bowman Gray?
This is Daytona 500.
Nice. Now let me ask: are you going to have your Joy of Seating seat in that car, sir, or is RFK kind of adamant about? Are you going to have your seat, or they going to put the carbon seat in there?
So before we got the 500 sold, my seat was. Dad's seat was in the Clash car just for the sake of making it easier. But then once they got the 500 sold, like, all right, let's put one of our seats in there to keep everything same. So they had to lower it down, and I'm concerned fitting belts for it right now. So feeling like a real race car driver again.
I'm going to get off screen. Derek does this show, and I'll let you guys have at it, all right?
What are y'all doing?
This is the Also Ran broadcast, where we're taking over the Shoe Show and just talking underdog stories and, talking about things behind the curtain that not a lot of people get to watch. So still kind of doing the same thing what the Shoe Show is doing, but I'm letting Derek run it, and I'm just being the producer side of things.
Well, basically, last year when I came into the show to do co-hosting with Josh, I kind of introduced the idea of let's expand out a little bit Let's have Andy J on. He's got a joyous seating seat. That's our tie to Corey and his dad's shop. And Josh had so much fun getting introduced to the ARCA series that I presented the idea to him. I was like, well, Corey's got stacking pennies, and he's doing enough now to where we're not really doing him the justice we used to do him. So why don't we just branch out and start giving some of these, not underdogs, but also Rans, their due diligence and start telling some of their stories. And he's like, yeah, I love it. Let's go. So that's what we're doing, man. We just had Caleb Costner on earlier
today. That's a noble cause.
I'm glad you appreciate it, man.
He's good people. That's a noble cause.
Well, Derek, let's get on with the show. I have to cut Derek off because he just won't stop talking. So, all right.
Service okay?
Yeah, you look good, man. I'm going to hop off, and I'm going to show a little transition, and then Derek will run with it.